Well, good evening, race fans. It is Bucky Doren testing a few more things. I've been working off a lot of projects here at the Doren Sports Bar and Grill. There's still some projects I got to work on, also at the same time setting up some new equipment and whatnot, trying to experiment and try to maybe develop a show for dirt track racing. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Also, take a look at some video highlights from this past weekend and engage in a conversation about whether or not drivers can actually hear things while they are racing. There was a particular incident that I'm assuming most of you have seen by now that took place during the Deere Brothers Summer Series race down at 34 Raceway. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in and enjoying with the experiment. This is going to be called Dirt Track Speedway. All right, so one of my goals that I'm hoping to accomplish with this show, there's a ton of other shows right now that are doing interview shows. There's some great shows that are already established. In fact, I saw Cody Malacote had started one actually this past Tuesday night, so it's driver interviews. I think they're doing a great job with it. My goal is to find something just a little bit different involved in the racing conversation. I've always felt that there are three groups in this great sport of ours. There's the drivers that we obviously hear a lot of. There's the promoters, and there's also the fans as well. All three of these groups look at the sport differently, and they have different expectations for Dirt Track Speedway, this show here. I'm going to try to shed some light on all three of those groups to try to maybe help us understand what the others are expecting. We expect things and have certain demands and expectations, but maybe not necessarily ones that are going to be able to make it. So my goal, dare I say it, to use an overused phrase, is to make racing great again. So I've been talking about it, probably been a little cryptic on what's going on with my Facebook page, what's going on at the Doren Man Sports Bar and Grill. It's a little bit different of a backdrop, you may notice, from what you've seen in the past. Most of the work, though, has been stuff that's right in front of me. Also, in this wall right over here, a buddy of mine, Tom Tempest, an electrician, came over and helped me wire some stuff up. That's been the biggest thing. There's some other projects I'm working on that I'm really not allowed to talk about yet, but you won't see a whole lot of those. A very behind-the-scenes type of thing. So that is my goal here with things tonight. And we're going to try to keep it as a racing format. We'll have hot laps, we'll preview what's going on, heat races, talk about some of the highlights of some of the bigger events, or maybe something that I've noticed somebody got a career win or something like that. Now, when we move on to our, what I'm going to call our LCQs, our last chance qualify to our A main for conversation, had a chance to go down to the Cedar County Raceway and their spring fling, and here's some highlights from that race. So just some of the highlights from my visit to the Cedar County Raceway and Darkside Promotions spring fling. Over 200 cars, I think 221 or 223. Dallin Murdy won with the mod lights. Mitchell Bellenberger was the four-cylinder champion. Nate Yoger grabbed the Outlaw Mod, saw a great battle with Tyler Soppe and Troy Hovey. Soppe ended up edging Hovey for the win. Another great battle with the IMCA stock cars. Elijah Zevenbergen and Travis Van Straten were fighting it out. Zevenbergen was the victor. With the IMCA modifieds in the big payday, Jeff Larson in the blue B1 set a blistering pace early. Had a little trouble negotiating through lap traffic. Had some troubles, had to pull off because of it, giving the lead to Jordan Grabowski. A couple of cars drove deep from the field. Kyle Brown would start 15th to finish second. The 92 with Tyler Drosty 18th to second. In the end, it was Jordan Grabowski, and I talked to him after the race.
A challenging track tonight, but you kind of expect at this time of year. What were you guys thinking as far as how the game plan was? Just get up front and kind of maintain, or what was the game plan?
Well, it kind of changed there since I sharpened it from 75 with a pit stop to 50. I mean, I'll take it now, but I just wanted to kind of ride for about 20 laps, and that dude was setting a heck of a pace, so I just kind of was like, I'm just going to keep kind of momentum, keep going. Second's not bad, and all of a sudden I seen about 20 to go, and it was time to go, so turned the wick up. I seen Kyle there on the restart do a slide job. I turned the wick up for about 5 laps on that coaster, and then at the end that was all I had. But that's hats off to GRT race cars, Terry Phillips, Friesen Chevrolet, Denny and the CPD Shocks, and Integra and Kaiser Manufacturing. A lot of people that helped me out. I couldn't be here. My brother-in-law Merle came with me, my wife, his brother-in-law's wife. Everybody's with us, and Spanger. It was a fun trip. It's been a really fun trip so far.
Well, we talked a little bit about lap traffic there. That's what affected the B1 of Jeff Larson there, and he ended up pulling off. But you had some serious lap traffic there. You had 6 or 7 cars duking it out side by side.
After watching him, it's like, don't wreck in lap traffic. Just keep the wheels on this thing. But I don't know where anybody was behind us, if they're right on us or not. But I was just trying to be smart and not wreck in lap traffic, hit a hole and shove into one or anything crazy. But it was a really demanding racetrack, and glad we held on.
Great win, deserving.
Congrats.
Thank you.
All right, so that was the highlights from the Cedar County Raceway with the Spring Fling, Dark Side Promotions. All right, so the audio thing, I think I figured it out. So I'm going to recap what we were just talking about, just in case you are just tuning in. One of the things that we're going to try to do with this show, Dirt Track Speedway, once I get it up and formatted the way I want, some of the things we're going to highlight is some of the upcoming bigger events. Obviously, with the state of Iowa, which is going to be our focus, there's a ton of tracks to keep track of. So got to kind of narrow the scope down and upcoming events for this week. The Lee County Speedway, unfortunately, already had to cancel the Frostbuster based on Mother Nature, who apparently is a fickle... I better not say the rest of that word. So on Friday is when the racing action this weekend is going to get started. Both Davenport and Marshalltown are going to be racing. The Rebel K for the Mississippi Valley Fairgrounds at the Davenport Speedway. Night 2 of the Frostbuster, paying $1,000 to win for the modifieds, is at Marshalltown. On Saturday, looks like 4 tracks are in action. 34 Raceway is going to be hosting the 410 IRA Sprints during their spring showdown. Boone will host the second night now of the Frostbuster, $1,000 to win for the modifieds. Independence also has $1,000 to win mods during the spring break opener. And Saturday, the West Liberty Raceway hosting the Deary Brothers Summer Series. And then on Sunday, just one race, Benton County Speedway and the Frostbuster the final night, still with another $1,000 to win for the modifieds. So that's the upcoming racing lineup. I wanted to talk about, with this show, some of the things that the buzz is going on. Now, I don't know if you saw this video or not. I'm going to share it thanks to imca.tv. This has been a big buzz about the incident that took place at the 34 Raceway.
Curtis Murfeld is off the pace and headed for the pit area.
Hang on here.
Hang on, Andy Eckridge.
All right, that's why we do this, to learn. How about now? We'll try her again for you.
Curtis Murfeld is off the pace and headed for the pit area. Oh, hang on, Andy Eckridge up on the wall, and he'll turn it up. And headed for the pit area. Oh, hang on, Andy Eckridge up on the wall, and he'll turn it.
All right, so there was an awful lot of buzz that was going on about that particular situation on the this past weekend. So I was curious and got to reading a little bit of what people were talking about. By the way, Barry, thank you. I'm trying to work on the sync, see if it's any better at this point. If it's not, I'll try to adjust it the other way. So what I found interesting was that a lot of fans are jumping in, and I'm not going to go into the debate on whose fault it was or if there was anybody's fault. The one comment that got me really kind of interested in what was the conversation stirring it was, well, the driver knew he could hear. Drivers can't hear. And that went back and forth on about 5 or 6 different posts that I saw with different people involved. So I thought, well, why not ask the drivers? So I tried to get a series of different drivers to give their feedback on it, different classes from across the state. So our first one that I talked to, Nick Roberts, a former Sport Mod Super Nationals champion, now driving a modified, he said, I think a lot of drivers have a sense of cars near them, and there are times that you can hear another car. With the late model deal in Burlington, Jesse's sense of hearing could have been thrown off due to a car being directly in front of them. One of the unwritten rules we learn as drivers is that a car doesn't have their nose up past the door of a driver they are attempting to pass, then the line is still the leader's line. All right, so that's an interesting perspective. David Atcher, a stock car driver, it depends on the car. If someone is running the same gear, then no, it's hard to tell if anyone is back there. But if a car is running a higher gear, then it's possible to tell if someone is back there because their motor is turning at a different RPM, which will be noticeable over your own motor. Most of the time, I don't see a fender through the window, then I presume that no one is there. Nathan Wood checked in as well, and I talked to him. He says, I very rarely can hear someone well enough to know if they are there. There have been times leading a feature that I hear things, and my dad or the video tells me that no one was close. Those types of deals are bad situations, but very rarely would I say someone can hear a car and know they are on my rear quarter panel. Talk to Matt Ganson, who is I would say a up-and-coming driver with the modified class out of Northeast Iowa. Excuse me a second, folks. Usually if you hear them, they are very close. As far as knowing when you're clear, that is no doubt an experience thing, which I don't have over a lot of others. Usually knowing how much harder or slower you enter the corner compared to the person you are racing, you can usually tell who is going to come out ahead, line depending. Talk with defending and multi-stock car champion with the IMCA stock cars, Mike Nichols, and I would say that you can hear and feel other cars around you. However, every circumstance would be different. In the case of Andy and Jesse, I only saw a brief part of the race. From what I saw, it would have been nearly impossible for either driver to react that fast. Some classes happen faster than others, and certainly there is room for error in the late models, although expensive and unfortunate. I see that the incident was a, quote, racing deal. Both drivers have better days on their horizon. And the one that I found most interesting as far as the perspective of the particular incident that took place at the 34 Raceway, unfortunately with Andy Eckridge and Jesse Sobbing coming together, Eckridge rolling, was Todd Schutz. There were a lot of variables that play into that. It's very hard to explain, and I found his perspective, again, bear with me, folks. You can hear and sense other cars around you, but like I said before, there are a lot of variables that play into that. For example, if the track has walls or a big grandstand, that reflects a sound. It's hard to tell sometimes. Drivers can always be very predictable and at the same time very unpredictable. It seems that no one sees things the same way either. All the drivers, I respect their opinions 100%. And I thank them for taking the time. So I found it an interesting conversation that, yes, people can hear, but what I've gleaned from it all is that you can't always tell what's going on. And if you watch the video, you can make your own assertion of what actually took place. Sorry, just reading some of the comments there. Hey, Todd, thank you for checking in. And then Chris Marchese, no love to Todd Cooney, apparently, in the comment sections. So anyway, that's some of the things I'm going to try to do. Again, for those that are just tuning in, the goal for the show, as I develop it, isn't necessarily to make an interview show, make it a highlight show, make it a result show. I want to make it a conversation show. There are three factors in the world of dirt track racing. And it's the drivers, it's the promoters, and the fans. And each of the groups have different expectations. And my goal is to kind of shed the light on all three of those of what they expect, to try to see if we can make some changes. And dare I say it, make racing great again. So that is the highlight section. And the final thing that I'd like to do is always a Victory Lane speech. And tonight's Victory Lane speech actually stems from a conversation that I started working on an article about what makes the perfect night for a race fan. And what I learned out of the whole situation and I knew this, but I talked to 50 different fans and got about 300 different answers on what makes the perfect night of racing. Now, most of them said car count and other things, but I got hooked into a conversation with Joe Hayes, a former race director in Northeast Iowa, and Joe Hayes and I got talk on a topic about more younger fans getting excited about the sport. Well, hello, Trip the dog, Doren. Hi. Come here. Come on. There you go. All right. You'll get your treat in a minute. You got to wait till Dad gets done talking. Got to wait. All right, so anyway, I got talking with Joe Hayes, and we need to get them more excited. Not only new race fans, but also race drivers, also track workers, reporters, sponsors, etc. If they don't get excited about the sport, then the sport is eventually going to slowly die. And if we don't do things to make changes, then, well, we're obviously going to be the last to enjoy this great sport. So I've got a challenge for everybody this weekend. Hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate. So my challenge that I'm issuing is take a picture of a kid or kids having fun at the racetrack, whether it's in the grandstands, after the races, talking with the drivers, or we've got plenty of young kids that are racing this weekend. Take a picture of it, tag me at Bucky Doren, do it on Facebook, and I'll share some of the best ones when I do my next show, whenever that is, after I get done testing. Thanks. That's it for tonight. I hope everyone enjoyed tonight's show. Feedback is welcome. Again, I'm still feeling out. I got this new computer unit, so there's obviously some bugs I still have to work out. And that's how racing gets better, is you experiment. So tonight I'd say, well, I can't grade myself just yet. I have to go back and watch it. So until next time, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This is going to be Dirt Track Speedway. And I have to thank a few people, and I want to thank IMCA.TV for allowing me to use the video from 34 Raceway. Also, I want to thank the drivers who joined in tonight during part of our A-Main conversation, David Hatcher, Atcher, Matt Ganson, Mike Nichols, Nathan Wood, Nick Roberts, Todd Shute. I appreciate your feedback. Also, Tom Tempest, my buddy, my electrician buddy, who helped me teach an awful lot about a breaker box and that I didn't zap myself so it didn't pee down my leg at the Doorman Sports Bar and Grill. And also, thank you guys for tuning in. It'll get better. We'll learn as we go. And until next time, salute.